And welcome to the Invention Licensing Show. I'm your host, David Fedowa, and I'm here to help you license your product. Today, we're gonna jump more into the mini-series on licensing contracts. Today, we're gonna get into improvements clauses, how they work, how to get them into contracts. So to jump right into it, licensing contracts, improvements clauses. We already talked about minimums and grants of license and royalty rates. And so the improvements clause is something that's usually very important to me or a potential licensee. And so there's a lot of the times where there is a butting of heads of who owns the improvements. Because a company, if they make improvements, they want rights to it. Or if inventor or them makes an improvement on the product, the inventor doesn't want to get improved out of the deal. And so there's ways to handle this. Improvements clauses are very important because improvements, just through developing a product, improvements and design changes all come about, and they all usually happen throughout the process. And so who owns those? One of the tactics that I like to use is I start out and say licensor, inventor, is the owner of any and all improvements, patentable or not. That is the best, broadest statement that you can make or that you can get into a contract. But licensees don't necessarily want that, because then if you own improvements, let's say they make a manufacturing improvement with this product and they want to use it on their other product lines. How do they use that? Because now you own it technically, because it was used on your innovation. Or certain aspects of the product can be incorporated into other ones. Who owns that? How does that work? And so they want this gray area of like, we want to be able to do what we want to do. And so a lot of times what happens is I will help craft a improvements clause that I own any and all improvements, but they get a license to use it while this license is active. Doesn't that make sense? Right? Because if the license is active and they're paying me, I own improvements, but they can use them. And so companies will a lot of times agree to that. If they don't want to agree to that, and sometimes they'll dig their heels in and say, we need to own all improvements, right? A lot of inventors, they say, they need to own all improvements, I'm moving on to another company. I say, I like to work with companies. I like to figure out how we can work together as a team to make this deal actually work. And so when I start to get in that situation where a company is digging their heels in on the improvements clause, and they say, we need to own all improvements, I say, great, that's fine. How we can craft language so that both parties are happy is licensee owns all improvements made to the product, but all improvements are incorporated into this licensing agreement. So meaning the fact that if there's an improvement by them or by me, it gets incorporated into this licensing agreement so that I will continue to get paid no matter how much they improve this product. And so that safeguards me. And then I say, if the licensing contract is canceled or terminated, is better language. If the licensing contract is terminated, all rights revert to licensor, inventor. And so what that means is they own any and all improvements as long as there's an active license. As soon as they cancel the license, which makes sense to the inventor and to them if you explain it in the right way. Because if they cancel the licensing agreement, then they don't need that technology anyways. They should give it back to you. And so, but during the licensing contract, they own it. It's all theirs. And so essentially you are getting paid on those rights, but they own them. And they own them until they cancel the contract or you cancel the contract. Then all rights become yours. And a lot of times companies are okay with this arrangement because they want to control the intellectual property, they want to have it, but they won't need it once the licensing agreement is over. So you get to essentially have your cake and eat it too, where you get your rights back at the end, but they have their rights during the contract as they wanted. And so both parties come to an agreement. So you can see through the licensing process, there are steps of, hey, we would love to just own any and all improvements, make it simple and straightforward, inventor just owns them all. Companies don't agree to that. So you need to find the middle ground where both parties can agree to terms. I see so many inventors say, oh, they want all improvements, hands up, walk away, done deal. And the inventor wants to be out. And I'm like, that's just crazy. You have a company that wants to make money for you as a royalty rate. but you can't come to terms on a simple term like this. And it's just crafting language and figuring out what they truly want and what you truly want and finding the middle ground that works for both parties. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Licensed or Invention with David Fido. Do give me a thumbs up or subscribe now. If you're looking for coaching or anybody to help you with your licensing products, check out inventtribe.com. And we're going to continue on with the mini series on licensing contracts.